Dr. Bruce Strouble Jr. So excited, so excited. Yeah, so excited for Dr. Bruce. So a little housekeeping. Restrooms are right down this hall here. Exits, you came in the front door, but there's one up here. And if you would, put your phones on silent or vibrate for us, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So how many of y'all know Dr. Bruce? All right, very good. How many of his students are here? Make some noise. Okay, they're quiet students, huh? All right, well, very good. So we have an action-packed evening for you tonight. How many of you already got your books? Okay, good. How many gonna get a book? Raise your hand. All right, so you got a lot of sales going on, Dr. Bruce. Got a lot of sales going on. So Dr. Bruce Strouble is an anti-racism scholar, environmental justice advocate, and community organizer committed to advancing sustainability and resilience in African American communities. He holds a PhD in public policy and administration and has held leadership roles in sustainable programs at the Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University. Yes, and the city of Tallahassee. Currently, as senior manager of equitable climate resilience programs at Groundwork USA, he leads efforts to address climate change challenges through equitable community-driven solutions. And his work bridges scholarship and activism, making him a key voice in environmental justice and Black community empowerment. Y'all help me welcome the man of the hour, Dr. Bruce Strouble Jr.
Thank you, Nicole. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all so much for coming out tonight. Your support means the world to me. Before I do this reading, the first reading of the night, and then we'll kick off the panel, I want to thank everybody who supported this work. A lot of y'all supported this work without knowing it, but first and foremost, to my wife who's in the back still helping out, my wife, Strouble. None of this would be possible without her. To my children, Javen, Amari, Cyrus, and Peyton, my 4 boys, that's what all this is for. That's why I'm so driven to kind of do whatever it takes to improve our community. To everybody else who I work with, Mutaki, Dr. Dr. Huberto Loman Jackson, Barbara Bill, Dr. Oliver, Rashawn, Serenity Adner, Mr. Barber, everybody. I think almost everybody in the community, we touch in some kind of way. We work together. I see Commissioner Bill Proctor here. Thank you for coming out, brother. I think everybody kind of pursuing that same thing, trying to make these communities better and trying to make sure that our people are here in the future. So a little bit about the book, and I'm gonna do this first reading. I've been working on this book probably since the pandemic. It took a long time to come together because when I put my dissertation together, I wanted to share the information with people, but for any of you who are attempting a PhD, if you're doing a master's program or any kind of advanced degree, you know the writing is really technical. So you have to find a way to make it digestible so that people can take it in and understand it. So I took on the work, and it took me a long time to kind of unpack my dissertation and then find ways to make it where it will relate to issues that were current and going on in our community. So I'm gonna share just this piece from my first chapter in the book, and I hope y'all enjoy it. And I hope this motivates y'all to make a purchase. All right. The psychological toll of living with constant racial animus is immense. Racism in America is not relegated to isolated incidents that occasionally haunt our existence. It is the very prism through which our daily experiences are refracted. It is a constant, uninvited companion in the journey of the Black experience. Acknowledging this reality is daunting, yet ignorance exacts a more deleterious toll. Left unchecked, the hostile racial reality indoctrinates many Black people to view disparity as the standard and normative. This message sent to our youth resounds with staggering clarity. Your life does not matter. You are not important. Stay in your place and be satisfied with day-to-day survival. This perspective, when adopted by a critical mass of Black people, is unequivocally unsustainable. It nurtures dysfunction and stifles our collective mental health and socioeconomic development. Nonetheless, despite the varying challenges facing Black communities, the beauty and resilience of the Black people persists. Seemingly through the struggles of our ancestors, a contingent of us remain resolutely poised to forge ahead against all odds in pursuit of justice, liberation, and freedom for our people. The enduring spirit of resistance flows through our sermons, poetry, rap lyrics, artworks, lectures, and literature, beacons passed from generation to generation, symbolizing hope and determination. It is within this embrace of the spirit that I am drawn to confront the contemporary challenges that confront Black Americans today. This very moment, Black children are being inundated with toxic poisons that are largely sited near their schools and homes, hospitalized from asthma, cancer, and lead exposure, sex trafficked, abused, murdered, undereducated, and incarcerated at alarmingly disproportionate rates when compared to their counterparts in other racial groups. Yet, despite our nation's technological advancement and economic superiority, little is being done to address these issues. The leaders in the Democratic Party repeatedly fail to adequately prioritize these issues, while the Republican Party actively seeks to worsen the condition for Black people. These circumstances created the urgency with which I started trying to answer some critical questions. How do we survive in a system seemingly designed against us? And how can we plan for the future when our history underscores the uncertainty of our present? And perhaps the starkest question, what happens to the next generation of Black people if we fail to answer these questions successfully? All right, so let's stop there. So now we're going to go into a panel discussion. I'm going to let Nicole do the introductions, but I got a group of just brilliant minds that we brought together to talk about some of these issues I'm raising in the book. Thank you.
But before we bring the panel up, I want you to just speak briefly about the timing of this book, especially with this weekend being what it is and tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole. So I almost got out of here. I forgot to tell you about this. Okay, so we know what's going on in the country. We know what's going on our planet. This book, the timing is just really impactful, considering that we're right ahead of MLK holiday. And a big part of this book is about our ability to dream and think of ways and feel free and come up with ideas and then pursue them. And I think that one of the problems is we experience racism in this country is it stifles us so much that people stop dreaming and we just start accepting the reality that's given to us. On top of that, a lot of y'all know where I'm from, my hometown, Altadena, California. It was destroyed in a fire a week ago. And I'm talking about just like epic devastation that you couldn't imagine in your own city. Like everyone I knew, every home that I ever lived in, my grandmother's home, all my friends, they have all been kind of driven out of the community. And we are uncertain about how people will rebuild. We're uncertain about if people will be able to come back because they're being priced out. And we know the insurance companies be playing these games and shucking and driving. And we're hopeful, but people are really uncertain about what's going to happen in the future. So it's interesting, perhaps the week before in fact, a couple of days before the fire happened, I was sitting with my grandmother in California, and she was asking me, what is it that I'm talking about in my work? And I was explaining to her that as Black people, the way history has unfolded in this country, it's put us in situations where we are on the front lines of a lot of these environmental catastrophes. So when they happen, they say, how they say when the country gets a cold, the Black community gets the flu. So when the country gets hit with a climate disaster, it's a nuclear disaster for the Black community. So we are the ones who are often most vulnerable. And this is why this work is so important to me, because I'm offering different strategies and ideas to kind of spark up that debate on how do we better organize ourselves so that when these things happen, we're prepared and we can rebuild faster and get our communities back functioning. And then the last thing is, there's a lot of political ideas in here, policy ideas that I believe will move our communities forward. And they're going to become more and more important as we start to see the steps backwards that our communities are going to be taking under this current administration that's coming into power. And that inauguration is happening tomorrow. And I think this is a perfect time for us to start organizing because we can't go back, right? We have to keep pushing forward. And we have to kind of outlast this next 4 years and get ourselves in position to be ready to go when we get the next opportunity. So I think I'll stop there. I'll be talking to y'all more throughout the night. Again, thank y'all so much for coming. I really appreciate y'all for being here.
Thank you, Bruce. All right, so our topic of discussion for the panel is the future of the Black community, challenges and opportunities. And we have a dynamic panel for you today. Attorney Mutaki Akbar, Dr. Andrea Oliver, Ms. Dakibra Gaston, and Ms. Melanie Williams. So I'm going to read each of their bios and then ask them to come up as I do. So first up, Ms. Melanie Williams. Y'all give it up for Ms. Melanie. She is a dedicated advocate for Black women, girls, and their community. She started as a student activist at FAMU, co-founding the Dream Defenders. Any Dream Defenders in the house? Okay, maybe not. Shout out for your people, Bernie. All right. She has extensive leadership, including serving as the Black Vote Director for the Paris Walks campaign in Florida and working with Planned Parenthood to fight for reproductive justice. She now leads MWRD Consulting, specializing in public health, community organizing, and policy development, bringing a powerful strategic voice to every cause she tackles. Give it up for Melanie. Dr. Andrea Oliver. Where did she go? All right, there we go. She is a near 30-year veteran educator and historian who has served at every level from K through 12 classrooms to college instruction and administration. She holds multiple degrees from Florida State University, Go Noles. She has authored 5 textbooks. Can anybody else in the room say that? 5 textbooks, okay? Used nationwide. She currently is recognized for her leadership in preserving African American history. Dr. Oliver is also working on 2 major writing projects, including a fictional trilogy tracing a Black family from Civil War to Tulsa's Greenwood community in 1921. Tonight, she brings a wealth of knowledge on education, history, and community empowerment. Dr. Andrea Oliver. All right, Ms. Dakibra Gaston is a registered dietitian, lactation consultant, and public health champion in Tallahassee with over 16 years of experience. She has served as director of the WIC and nutrition programs across multiple Florida counties and advocated for healthier lifestyles through the Florida Breastfeeding Coalition. Dakibra currently works at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, specializing in infant and pediatric nutrition, and leads her own practice, compassionate care, nutrition, and lactation services. One time for the moms in the house. Her passion for supporting mothers, reducing Black maternal mortality, and fostering health equity spans from infancy to adulthood. Y'all give it up for Dakibra. And last but certainly not least, Attorney Mutaki Akbar, who is the founder of Akbar Law Firm, which is now Akbar Thomas, located in the heart of Tallahassee's historic Frenchtown, a Morehouse graduate who also earned his law degree cum laude from the University of Miami. It's all about the youth. He has devoted his career to advocating for freedom, justice, and respect, particularly within Black communities. Known for mentoring students and providing internships, Attorney Akbar is deeply committed to serving those in need and bringing strong, compassionate representation to his clients. He stands as a pillar in our community, proof that legal expertise and community service can go hand in hand. Y'all, welcome. Attorney Akbar. All right, so where shall we start? Y'all? This is such a rich topic, such a very, very rich topic. Hold on. All right, here we go. So first question is, how do we harness community assets to address systemic inequities? Anybody? How do we harness community assets to address systemic inequities?
I'll go ahead and start, I guess. I'll put myself out there. So I took some notes because I get kind of nervous. Although I am used to speaking in public, I still get nervous because when we come to these panels, I think we talk and we talk, but it's hard to get to the next step and actually implement the changes. So that question is a loaded question, and I feel like Dr. Strobel asked that question on purpose, probably because he has been doing this work in the community for a long time. I met him, 13 years ago when I was a family student, and the work continues. I feel like we're doing the same work, but oftentimes we have to shift what we're doing. New organizations pop up, new coalitions pop up. So y'all know the answer to the question just as well as I. I think that it can be tricky to leverage community assets to make change in the Black community because of the fact that we don't have political power. When you look at what's going on, we have political representation, but that doesn't equal Black political power. I think that, and it's no fault to any one elected official. I think that I can only imagine, I've never been in elected office, so I can only imagine what it's like to go into elected office and realize that you don't actually have the power you thought you were gonna have when you ran for office. I think as an individual city or county commissioner or other elected official for that matter, a house, a state rep at the legislative level, you come in there and automatically you have to learn the system and you have to learn how to get around and advocate for whatever you went into office to advocate for. Oftentimes, the electeds are not the ones calling the shots. They're not the ones in power when it comes to, I'm thinking about the local issues that I often see Black people mobilize around in Tallahassee. So, gun violence and crime, I think, is a big one. I think housing is another one. What's going on in our school system is another one. The people who are elected every 4 years on these boards, they get in there and they spend half the time up there figuring out and learning, just as well as me and you trying to figure out how to read the ordinances or the legislation in front of them. And then the other half, they got to start running for reelection. So I think that for us, I see people who are coming into the system for the first time and deciding that they're going to get FaceTime with elected officials or with candidates. And as long, if they're willing to meet with me, that's political power. And I've, argued and I've went back and forth with people that I've been in community with and organizing with to tell them that's not necessarily the case. It doesn't really matter if you get FaceTime, especially as an individual. If an elected official invites you to go talk on an issue by yourself, that's a clear sign and an indication that if I can get so-and-so in my office and I talk to her and I make her feel good and she feels like her voice was heard, let's talk about the 27 million to FSU. Like, they were trying to come to certain political activists one-on-one and say, let's talk about this and let's talk about, if they come to you one-on-one, just know this is a part of the problem. They kind of knew they could pick you and try to pick you out and say, well, we spoke to the Black community because we spoke to so-and-so. No. A voting bloc, like having political power, means that they know, like if they approach me, they already know all the other leaders on all these community issues will be contacted and they will all be in the loop on whatever you approach me about. And I think it's just for a community, like I'm working class, I got invited to speak on a panel, yay, good for me. I ain't well off. Like, all of us are still working to survive, and what Dr. Strobel was talking about with the psychological impacts of racism and being, just being a Black person here, like we're still dealing with that. So as we're going through that, they're literally like vultures. They're coming around us trying to figure out, like, who can we contact in the Black community to make sure that there's not a 500-person protest the next time we need to take money out of, public dollars that was supposed to go to their schools. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think another, perspective to look at it as far as like community assets. I think what we're seeing right now, where we are right now, is the way that we harness community assets. Being in Frenchtown, having ownership in Frenchtown and other Black communities like Frenchtown, and holding on to it. So one of the things that we constantly do is, we lose our land, we lose our property, and we lose our economic power at the same time. So, don't sell grandma's house, don't sell great grandma's house. And if you see something come up, or if you see grandma's neighbor selling, try to buy it or get with community to try to buy it, because one thing that we need is economic power in order to continue to build for the next generation that's moving forward. Bruce and I are with a group right now that is investing into the Black community because we think it's important to harness those assets in order to build economic power. So I think economic power in the Black community and ownership in the Black community is important to fight against those mechanisms.
Thank you. Now, Dog, do you want to say something?
Yes. Okay. I just want to piggyback on something that Attorney Akbar just mentioned about, the assets being in ownership and land assets, more specifically. As we speak, I'm actually involved in an effort in my hometown community of Madison County, Florida. And I'm just gonna always put a plug in for the rural folk, because so oftentimes we get left out. With communities like Tallahassee, you have concentrated numbers on your side, and there's a lot that you can do when you mobilize those concentrated numbers. But so oftentimes in the rural communities where you want to talk about not having anything, we truly do not have anything. And when you talk about communities like Madison County in particular, who bore the brunt of 2 natural disasters last year within a relatively short span of time, the formerly all-Black high school and 2-year community college there in Madison has been a vacant property for the past 23 years, since it was last abandoned by the school system. Upon desegregation, it was Madison Middle School, which was my alma mater where I went to middle school. They closed it in 2001. There was an effort or a move, just to kind of give you the short version of the story. They were going to put a hospital there, that fell through. And after that fell through, plans of building that hospital fell through, it just sat. A 30-acre educational complex, complete with buildings that were built back in the mid-20th century. So we're talking about exquisite architectural assets at that. We are right now fighting the hospital for ownership, transference of ownership to a community-based organization. Got a couple of meetings this upcoming week, so please pray for our efforts there. We are looking to put a school there that will hopefully educate members of our community in some of these sustainability assets that Dr. Strouble mentions in his book. So I'm very excited about that. And I also just want to piggyback and echo what he said about making sure that it's important that we maintain those assets and hold on to them and fight for them as best we can.
I don't have a lot to add. The only thing, she can't. The only thing I would add is first recognizing who are the community assets. As far as the community assets, it's not just the leaders with titles. It's actually every person that I'm laying my eyes on. You have to understand that you're a community asset. And you have to first understand that you have power. And if you don't know and believe that, that's where we're not even going to get out the gate. So you have to know who you are. You have to know your history. This area right here just has a rich history. I actually attended high school. That's 100-year-old high school. My teachers, they can tell you that they were sharecroppers. So knowing your history, knowing your power, knowing who you are, teaching your children that and your grandchildren, and having a mind focused on not just because we're so busy. I feel like we're in perpetual survival mode. And it's hard to harness your power, acknowledge you have power when you're always in survival mode. So the only thing I can say is, number one, know that you are the asset, because you are us. You are the people. We are the people. And have a focus to lend your power to what we're trying to do. Lend whatever you can, your time, your money, your finances, so we can have some synergy and move these things forward, that people like the people on this panel, what Dr. Strouble is trying to do, know what's going on in your community, but know that you are an asset first and foremost. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. You actually said exactly what I was going to say. And forgive me because normally when I'm in a space like this, I start out with a call and response. So I need you all to repeat after me. I am you. You are me. Together we are community. I am you. You are me. Together we are community. We are community right here. We have established a community right here in this time, in this place, in this space. And as Dakira, as everyone said, but Dakira in particular, you are the asset. And so what are you bringing to the table? Just something to think about. All right, our next question is, how can policy activism and voter engagement create real change?
I think that's an important question, especially where we are now. And Bruce and I, I'm sorry, Dr. Strouble and I have had this conversation for some time now. And I think our era has been to try to get involved in their system. And when I say try to get involved in their system, like we go out and vote, we become Democrats, some of us become Republicans, we're progressives, we're moderates, we're all of these things, and none of these, we're reacting to everything that they put in front of us. And we're not creating our own agenda, we're not creating our own policies, we're not creating anything that's speaking out for ourselves. So I actually think what's happening tomorrow is an opportunity. When I say it's an opportunity, because we already know what's coming, we already know what it's going to look like, we already know that it's not for us, so it's an opportunity for us to actually strategize and do what we should have already been doing, but actually strategize to move the needle forward. And we had a panel earlier this week, and one thing that I think that we need to go back to is like the pre-Obama days. Because the pre-Obama days, that's when we like really had this Black consciousness, we had this village mentality, we had all those things, but when Obama won, we thought we made it. And because we thought we made it, like we stopped thinking from a African consciousness village perspective, like the dashikis went away, the Malcolm X shirts went away, like the kente cloth, all of those things went away, and we suddenly thought that we could assimilate into this society, into their politics, and all of those things, and 2020 came along, and we was reminded that that's not our reality, but we still did strategize in the process. So I think the opportunity is not to think that it's something that's going to happen tomorrow, but to think that it's probably going to take 10, 15, maybe 20 years to really get it together. But we have to start the process, and the problem is that we're just impatient. We want to see it happen like right away. We want to see, we're satisfied with people that look like us in office, but we come back to our communities, and our communities look the same that it has for the last 50, 100 years. So the long game has to be, okay, what is our agenda? And once we figure out what that agenda is, what does it look like for our community? And then who can we put in these positions, in these places that really going to speak for our community and not have their own individual agenda, but have a community agenda. So I think that's where it starts. I think it starts like really having conversations that's not on Facebook Live, conversations where we close the door, we lock the door, and we sit and really figure out what we need to move our communities forward.
Let me see, this one's louder. I was gonna say, we had a panel, no, we had a meeting, which is funny, because it's kind of a new thing that I started, of a coalition of Black policy people across the state of Florida. So the idea is people like us who have these events, like we're in Tallahassee, we're all pretty well connected, and there are people like us all over the state, doing their own thing. And most of the time, it's the same type of people. We got the farmers, we got the early education and literacy folks, we got the political activists who are doing voter engagement, democracy work, all that jazz. And I think that bringing Black people together at a larger level can make sure that, first of all, when resources are scarce, we can start
couple years ago, when the family had the opportunity to have a brainstorm with them. It was like, I think it was like 10 years anniversary of the independence or something, but we got on the room with all these people, right? And there was like these elders that we learned about in history, definitely when I came to San Luis, I, had my eyes open and learning about these folks, and I was sitting on Zoom with them. And you know what they called us? They kind of blew my mind. Like, we were talking directly to us during the family. Not the dream defenders of today, like the dream defenders for my day. So, the OGs, and I was kind of phasing out going on early in mid 30s. They were talking about it, and they were calling us the school mountain generation. And I was kind of taken aback because, like, I think about the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, like all the movements in isolation, right? And they sat there and like schooled us and educated us on how they see it, which is that what we're doing is a continuation of what we did. It didn't matter that we're in a different state, we're fighting different, well, I guess you could argue that we're fighting different name, different face, yada yada. Charlotte Beata, she's not here, but Melanie Mother's me, she's the founder. Sorry to get sidetracked, but I think my point is, I would push back against that. I would say that I don't think we're impatient. I think one of the problems is we're just so patient. Like, think about it. Think about how long we've been coming. Think about all of the small gains that we've won over time. And I think that where I agree with you is that's what makes us complacent. Is that we're so patient, and for a lot of us, it's our faith. And I'm Christian, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I feel like I'm on my path and I'm doing what I can do every day. I'm doing a little bit more. For some of us, it's not our faith, and it's not a higher power that we believe that drives us to fight for Black people. But all the same, we're all still in this fight and we're doing this work together. So I would push back against that. And the other thing is, when it comes to policy and political activism, there's so many levels to it. And I've met people who be like, well, what do you do? And I'll say, I lobby at the state level. So I go to the Capitol and, we're focused on state issues and say, wow, like that's super, like that's intense. Like you actually do important stuff. Like I've had someone say that to me, and she's a therapist. And I'm like, do you realize that like if you weren't doing what you do, there would be no legitimacy to what I do, So, and that's because like if I didn't know Dakiva and I didn't know the work that she did at a statewide level to fight for hospitals to be more breastfeeding friendly, that makes my advocacy less effective because, when I'm going up to the Capitol, these people are wondering, well, who is she representing? Because every other lobbyist up there is a white man who's representing, billion-dollar corporations. So when he goes into a people were like working farming and all of that in the legal world. Like we literally, without any relationships, like I'm out here taking probably no meaning to what I do. I can't do that. So I want to say that. I also want to say that voting. Too many times we're just telling people to go vote. And first of all, we don't know what's going on with ours, so we really can't educate them on who to go for, what to go for. But then after they vote, they just go about their life. Like they don't know when the commission, the city, the county is meeting. They don't know when the legislature is meeting, and the fact that, the governor wants to set the session for this and that, US60. Like we have to continue to bring this to people in the way that most makes sense to them. If they want to talk about TikTok and their song. Like whatever you care about, I'm gonna try to bring politics to you in that, in that way. Okay. The question was how can policy activism and voter engagement create real change? Okay. How does policy activism and voter engagement, well, just about a very close to that. And if many people, I know we have a lot of people vote, but people don't vote. People do not vote. So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta vote. I mean, you have to understand, a lot of times you people say, I don't like politics. I don't like politics. Stop it. Because everything is politics here. For example, you guys know that we have fewer school nurses now than we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I think there's 7, and you know how many? One more. What happened? Politics. So there's an entire list of diabetic emergency politics. So you do not think that politics affects even the lives of your children. You have been confused. And I gotta say that because in 2025, we do not have something. So you need to dive into politics under that. We've had 50 people burning it from both ends, and I'm looking at you, Commissioner Cochran, because you don't know me, but I know you have been working for many decades. And there's not enough parents and the people on this panel and the youth. So we have got to, number one, vote. Dr. Strouble, what did you say that the number was? 29%? 30%? That's the turnout for the common. So the lack of nurses in the schools so that if your child has allergies can get reasonable help, that's politics driven. So you have to understand and you have to dive in because it's a lot of work. And we need you. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. A lot of people are fighting that, and I get it. I totally get it. But we have got to use the power we have. If you don't think voting works, it's not true. It absolutely works. That's why they want to convince you that it does. The people are doing everything they can to take something from you. You need to ask why. We're not asking the right questions. So the number one thing we need to do is to learn about politics, get engaged, and dive in. And you need to vote. You need to say, what is it? Who do they want me to vote for? Every time there's an election, I go, I read the language of the things on the ballot. I ask a million questions of education and attention. There's a reason why it's going to have to read. But you need to ask questions because this is going to affect you. I'm not a grandmother yet, but maybe my grandchild is going to be a grandmother. And if she's going to public school, there's not going to be a nurse. And I'm using that as an example because Attorney Osborne said the longest. And I understand that we have been very patient. And sometimes we can be impatient. But I need you to understand the things that are happening tomorrow has been because they have played the long game. There are speeches that were made in the year I was born in 1980. They were talking about what they were going to do. And so tomorrow is the fruition of that. So we need patience. But we have to continue to move the people forward. And what they have done is they have continued to work around the political conscience of the day from decade to decade. Oh no, it's not prudent to be right in front of people of color and black people and call them this and that, but we're going to move around and we're going to indoctrinate these people with that type of thinking. And here we are. This is the theme of the discussion on 1980. 1980. So if you do not think politics matters, with that being said, please do not throw your hands up. We need your hands. We need your thoughts. We need your work. It can fuel us. So we have to, number one, we have to go in there and vote. And we have to know that politics matters. Yes, we need to work around these systems. We have to work, we have no choice. Our ancestors did that. When they were not allowed to participate in this, they were doing things in black churches and doing all kinds of things to raise and rally their community. So we have to get back to that. That's very important. So we have to come together as a collective, and the people have to decide. I mean, a handful of people can't push policy forward. So we have to be the ones to do it. But please do not be afraid of policy, because it is not a good.
And I just want to add to that and just emphasize that the conversation in that was also, don't worry about that. Don't worry about them. You're gonna ride along with the business plan. Whatever they say, and that saying is that strategy is what we saw. What was the headline for the day, for this last day? It was important. And I forgot what the other headline was. That it didn't move, emergency, abortion and emergency. That didn't move people in the deep streets to go out there and vote. And so like the things that we're talking about, diabetes, rent, utilities, the things that affect us as Black people, they're not talking about it because they don't care about it. So that's why I say we need our own strategy. So that way the people that's in our community that's not voting because they don't know how to run the seat, that they're going to go out there and vote, and they're going to participate in this process. But as long as we just like kind of going along and get along, doing this party, doing that party, GP, or whatever, RGP, whatever, it's not changing anything that's happening to our community if we're just going to go along with it. And that's why I'm saying that we've been impatient because we haven't sat long enough to come up with a strategy that's going to improve our community. Obviously, we got to do it. And this town, with the same that we had for the last 50 years, because the people that sit in office that don't get it. But I'm talking about out these doors with the Black folks. Over the first time I'm talking about is the first time of the people that live like that. It was crazy, up on the other side. And that's intentional. And that's intentional.
I was going to put this question on. That was so going on for Blackness is some rather passionate exchanges on social media over this issue. And I won't necessarily air them. I just think it's a public forum. All you have to do is hit history, I guess. Now we still have it. Zuckerberg, or whatever his name is. Zuckerberg, yeah. I say what I said. Run, tell that. I wasn't going to say anything, but I am very passionate about, because, as you pointed out, the whole thing about people not liking politics. I could say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we've been on the menu. And you need only to look at what's about to happen in less than 24 hours. We're going to have a convicted felon. Felon 47 is what I'm calling him. We're going to have a convicted felon taking an oath that, frankly, he has no intention of upholding, as is demonstrated by the fact that he didn't uphold it the first time he took the oath, right? And you know how we got here? Because I want to say it was something like 9 million people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020 did not vote. And if you look at the raw data from 2024, Trump didn't really gain any votes. See, that's the antidote the media is playing with y'all with. Don't even get me started on that, all right? Because I have not availed myself to a mainstream media source since the election, because they are part of why we are here as well. Let's just be clear. But what they're not telling you is, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the critically, he didn't really gain any voters. Okay? So that means people who voted in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, no less, for whatever reason, chose not to vote. Okay? And I'm not prepared to say it's all misogyny or it's all racism or it's certainly that was there. And, among our own people, we got some issues around seeing women in positions of power. That's a whole other conversation, a whole other panel, right? But, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir because you all sitting in the church, y'all probably voted, but we're connected to people who didn't. I know at least 5 people in my own family who didn't vote, and they don't see the need of voting. So it starts really with us doing the best that we can to educate as best we can, however we can. If that's a social media avenue, if it's just sitting around the table and talking avenue, just taking a stand and educating people, civically educating people. There's a reason why civic literacy is so important. It's so important. Civic literacy encompasses a knowledge of history and a knowledge of how government works. We cannot fall in, this is another problem, we want to fall in love with our policymakers. We don't have permanent allies, y'all, we have permanent enemies, right? I don't need to fall in love with the person I'm voting for.
This person is going to be the most effective person to move the agenda forward. That's what we got to get past. I don't really like so-and-so. I'm not asking you to marry them, right? This is not, swipe left, swipe right. We're trying, we've got an agenda. We've got things we have to do. I did. And I talk just like this in my classes. They don't know what to do with me. But, yeah, civic literacy and participation.
Thank you, Dr. Oliver. So I'm gonna take some audience questions, but while I'm coming down to meet you all, we'll talk, if you don't mind, talking about Tallahassee Alert.
Tallahassee Alert is, I guess I was more like an affiliate, but it is Dr. Strouble started Tallahassee Alert as a way to engage the community in politics. And I can even tell you what alert stands for right now. African American Local Election Review Team. So what we did, we put together like several different candidate forums and also did several different meetings during the local election time. And our focus at the candidate forums was to talk about issues that were specific to the African American community. And we had some very, very heated forums and we did them all at Watson Temple and we aired them on Facebook Live. But I think they were very effective as far as talking about the issues that affect the Black community. And most of the candidates thought it was a place that they had to be, that they had to come to, and those who didn't were intentional in not showing up as well.
All right, hold on. DJ, can you turn me up? There we go. All right, state your name, yes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mutor Flood. How y'all doing today? Hey, I have a question. What do y'all think is the relationship between white supremacy, capitalism, and what Dr. Strouble is talking about with environmental racism?
I'll attempt to answer this as best I can from my framework and my perspective as a historian. The capitalistic / mercantilist system, because modern capitalism really evolved out of a mercantilist framework going all the way back to the 15th century, where conquest of territory to exploit natural resources that were not available in said mother countries, whether those mother countries were Spain or Portugal or Holland or England, a lot of these European countries, they ventured out in search of natural resources that would enrich their coffers. And in so doing, not only exploited territory and the associated resources that were found in those territories, but also the indigenous people, be them in Africa or be them in the Western Hemisphere when they made their way to this side of the world. So the relationship you're mentioning is a long-standing relationship because from the so-called era of exploration and colonization, which started all the way back in the 1400s, until you get to, let's say, the 17 and 1800s with industrialization. Well, there can be no industrialization without raw materials, because it's the raw materials that you use, that you process to make said manufactured. Am I losing people? Is it too much of a history lecture? Okay, because y'all quiet, y'all scared. At least you're not like my students on the phone, you know. At least, you know, I'm enjoying this. But at any rate, with industrialization, you have the processing of those natural resources that were exploited from a lot of these territories and provinces that they quote unquote discovered some 300-400 years prior to that. So you had about 200 to 250 years of industrialization, and now here we are in post-industrialization, right? Because our economy, at least in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, we have outsourced our manufacturing and our industrialization to the global South, but they are now dealing with the fallout of industrialization in their countries, and because they don't have the same environmental infrastructure and things of that nature. So the degradation continues just so we can have access to cheap goods via the Mart of Wall or that latest iPhone. But the resources that it took to manufacture these products that we consume, and oh, by the way, a lot of these products are marketed to the community of people that look like those of us in the room. They're marketing, you know, this hyper consumption idea, which keeps the cycle perpetual. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. I tried to give it the historical framework that I felt it needed, but this has been going on for like going on 600 years, and you're not going to address it in 40. You're just not.
Good evening. My name is Serenity Williams, and my question for all of you, for anyone who wants to take a stab at it, is talking about solidarity and the need of Black solidarity, but also talking to how we can build that solidarity with each other, and also how we hold our comrades or friends that maybe step out of that solidarity. And yeah, some accountability, how we can hold each other accountable and how we can build solidarity.
Anybody?
I think that's a good question. I can only speak from my experience and my perspective. Working in public health, I've been asked to, you know, sit on these boards, board of directors and things like that. And I recently decided to step down from these boards, and it was intentional because it takes up a lot of your time, and I love to participate in these boards, but I said, you know, these boards are not working for my people. And it's funny, I stepped down from I was the president of the Florida Breastfeeding Coalition, which is a statewide coalition that supports breastfeeding, like breastfeeding task force all over the state. And I told them I was gonna step down, and then they sent me an email saying, you've been nominated to be president again. No, I'm not doing this, because I talked about being in perpetual survival mode, and that goes for people who are, you know, maybe low income and they're just working. That goes for people who are not so low income, who are working, but you know, you have to take care of your children and be a wife and be a mother, and you hold your own job and business and things like that. So for me, what that looks like is I am stepping down from organizations that don't serve my people, and the little bit of time that I do have, I'll be able to dedicate that. So I try to be an example of that. Another thing, I stepped out social media for a while, but I'm in these lactation groups, and anytime I say, well, for my business, I do sliding scale for the girls who live on the South Side. They're not gonna pay me with a credit card, they're gonna pay me Cash App, and I'm gonna get, they went off on me and say that I'm undercutting other lactation consultants. And I said, well, that's just too bad because these women need help. And those are my girls. They're in the hood, but they still breastfeed, believe it or not. And so they need my help. So if I have to see them for free or see them on a very, I'm going to do it. So I try to be an example to that because I have to look out for my people. I'm not where I am because it just sprouted. I had so many people lifting me up, giving me freebies, buying me this. I'm going to lift somebody else up. So we all need to be an example and think about, we all have a little bit of time, not a lot, because we have so many other things we have to do. But the little bit of time I have, I'm trying going forward to put that to organizations and systems that serve my people, including being a sounding board wherever I can. So that's my experience.
Nice. Anybody else?
I would like to go next because I want to talk a little bit more about the issue area that you work in. And I'm super excited that this year in the legislative session, I feel like we have a unique opportunity because usually the leaders, so the Speaker of the House and the Senate President are supportive of the governor. They do everything he asks. But this year, it kind of bucking him a little bit. It's, for someone who works in the legislative process, it's exciting to see because we have every branch of government is Republican controlled in Florida right now. So like our Supreme Court is majority like DeSantis appointees. Then you have him weaponizing the executive branches in Florida to try to do his bidding. But this year, the Senate President, the Speaker of the House have already kind of pretty much said like, these are our priorities. Like, we don't know what he's talking about, but we're going to focus on what we're going to focus on. So I was super excited this past week. So our legislative session starts in March, but we're having committee weeks currently. And our health policy committee in our Senate had a presentation from a state board, or they call it an authority in New Jersey. And New Jersey is Democratic ran. And New Jersey has made it their goal to be the safest, most equitable. Remember, some people don't even like the word equity, okay? They've made it their goal to be the safest, most equitable state in the whole country to give birth and raise a child. So that in itself is radical because white folk don't want to see even say equity, let alone in government, right? So they invited somebody to come and speak to our senators, right? So Republican majority to come and speak. They have an authority called the Maternal and Infant Health Innovation Authority. And so just like it sounds, they're focused on mom and baby and the whole process, right? So they do this awesome presentation talking about how they've built since 2019 this authority that not only has a seat at the table, right? They're giving recommendations directly to state legislators, but the president, who's a Black woman, is also on the governor's cabinet. So what does that mean? No matter, all the things that are moving at the federal level, all the things that are moving through the New Jersey legislature, like they have somebody who's a direct voice for all of the advocates, whether it's breastfeeding, doula advocates, midwifery advocates, like all of the things that fall under maternal and infant health are in this moving coalition. And I bring that up to say on the accountability piece, right? They do this dope presentation. Our chair and vice chair of our Senate Health Policy Committee are two white ladies who like champion anti-abortion stuff. So they say, we love moms and babies, and they claim, we love the Innovation Authority in New Jersey. Like, we want to do what y'all are doing. Right after that presentation, our administration for healthcare, our agency for healthcare administration in Florida, so they make the rules for the hospitals and things, and then our Department of Health did their annual presentations. And when I tell you the secondhand embarrassment that I felt because their presentations compared to this one from New Jersey, you could tell that they are not connected to our community. They're not actually work. So when senators on the panel asked them, do you all collaborate with, like, how does your collaboration look with community partners? We just heard this great presentation from New Jersey. Their answers were like, yeah, we have a lot of community, like, I kid you not. Like the man who chairs our Medicaid division in ACA, he said, we collaborate a lot with our community partners. That was his response. He's been in his position for 3 months. So for me, I think about accountability on so many layers. Like this year, I'm working as a consultant for Southern Birth Justice Network. They're out of Miami Gardens. They train doulas and midwives, and they have a mobile midwifery clinic, which is super dope if you think about it. But as a part of that work, I get to hold accountable these legislators, these agency heads that say they care about this and they want to foster collaboration. So that's one thing. I think the second thing
when you said it, it was funny because we're organizing amongst our people, right? We're all Black, we all on the same side of most political issues. But yet and still, there's still such a different, like I've met people who during an election would say, well, let's invite, this and that candidate to come and speak to our organization and blah, blah. And it would be a candidate who has like horrible views about women and, they've done things that everybody knows what they did, but because so-and-so is running for office, you want to invite him to talk to our group of Black women because what? Like, and I will ask them stuff like that in front of everyone, not because, you're not my homegirl, we're not still cool, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna waste my time going to a bunch of meetings and just being a yes man, yes woman. Whatever you say goes. I'm gonna hold you accountable in front of everyone else, and it's a little bit awkward, but it is what it is. And I think that goes on a personal note too. Like if you're just hanging out with friends, I think we need to encourage our Black men to do this more. Like if you know that a man is doing something, physical abuse or emotional abuse, or like just call a woman all things except their names, right? Like you need to say something to them. Like it really starts on the interpersonal level. You can't be out here advocating and saying like Black power and you're wearing the red, black, and green and the dashiki, but like you look the other way when your homeboy is treating his girlfriend or his wife, whoever, like crap. Like accountability comes at every layer. But how do we do it besides that? So I don't know. I think it's hard because, like I said when I started, we've seen people when they get in office, they flip. How do we hold somebody accountable when we know that there are forces beyond our control that we don't even know about that are pressuring them, and there may be reasons that like a Black person becomes a sellout. They may just be afraid to step out because their life could literally be threatened.
And just to speak on, I think that's a very good question. I think that's something that's going to move our community forward. I think I hate to keep taking the page from the Republican book, but they publicly hold each other down and privately do shifting behind closed doors. Whether that shifting includes accountability or that shifting is just like, all right, you stand aside while we do this out front. But that's something I think we publicly tear each other down and then privately continue to tear them down by spreading rumors about them or saying they not this or they not that, trying to take away that, whatever credibility that person has behind the scenes as well. So I think us as a community, and again, this goes to the strategy though, because if we have a strategy and if we have, this agenda, we talked about this agenda that we want to push forward, then we'll know publicly, okay, we're going to let this slide publicly, but when this person, when they come home or when we have this next meeting, we're going to address this issue. And again, I like to use Dr. Strouble as an example. Like there was, this one situation during the elections where, like it was said, on Facebook Live, I think it was a conversation that somebody had, and I called him after private, not publicly. I didn't jump out there publicly and say, hey man, this, that, and the other, in order to like bring him down or for it to be the appearance that we're battling, because we would never battle, right? But privately, I said, hey, isn't there another way that we could have addressed this or done this a different way? And we had a conversation about it and figured out a good way to move forward on it. So I think if we're going to have this village mentality, I think that's what we have to. I think that has to be the staple point, village. And if it's going to be a village, the village don't fight in public. The village handle it, behind closed doors with the elders, but the village don't fight in public. So I think we got to keep that mindset.
Thank you very much. My question is artificial intelligence a friend or a foe of African American development? At what levels does it normalize white supremacy? At what levels does it suppress Black expression?
So I'll take the first part of the question. Is it a friend or a foe? Yes. That's the answer, yes. And I say this as somebody who's actually in the process of writing another book for social studies educators in the K-12 system on how to harness AI for use in their classrooms. Because here's the thing, we can be Luddites if we want and deny and run away from the reality of the technology, but it's not going anywhere. It's here. I mean, we actively use AI, whether we know it or not, and we have been for years. Hello, Alexa. Okay. All right, Siri. I mean, it's here. So just as with any other technological innovation, if Black people do not learn how to harness it in positive, productive, and ethical ways, we're going to be replaced by it. Okay, so that's number one. Now, as far as white supremacy, again, we're already seeing it. Deep fakes on the internet, getting people, but it goes back to the educational piece. White supremacy is gonna do what white supremacy has always done. It's gonna harness whatever resource or whatever technological innovation it can to perpetuate itself. That's a given, all right? We know that. What we've got to do is be better educated and be better suited and better prepared to recognize it for what it is. And you do that by encouraging critical thinking, which frankly, we have got to get back to teaching our young people how to read. Lord have mercy, read, Jesus. I mean, when you see statistics that say the average American reads on a 5th grade level, or most Americans don't pick up a book to read once they leave middle school. Okay, I teach college. I can't tell you how many students I have had in the last 5 to 10 years who have told me when they come to my class and I assign them things that require them actually reading a nonfiction book, I'm told it's the first book they've ever read. Are you kidding me? How did you get through 12 years of school without ever reading a book? All right, no wonder the deep fakes is working. Okay, so if nobody else teaches reading, we got to teach it to our own kids, to our own grandkids, get in that Sunday school class, teach them babies how to read them quarterlies, okay? Form your own cooperatives and teach the babies how to read, because they're not going to get it in school. And it's not necessarily the teacher's fault, because they have all these mandates and boxes that they've got to check off. But one antidote to artificial intelligence is natural intelligence.
Amen. I agree with her that it is a friend, it is a foe. I'll say that it is a foe because anything that Black people can't leverage for themselves is going to hit us harder, especially when it comes to technology. We still have homes that don't have a computer. Right. They don't have a computer in the home. So we still have a significant percentage of us, and I don't have to tell you that, I know you know that, but it's a friend because a lot of Black people, and I actually plan to learn more about AI so I can leverage it to make my own personal business, which is just a nutrition and lactation business, but there is room for me in that world for AI. So I think that if more Black people can get in on it and leverage it to make money, to use it for their art, and don't be afraid of it. I think there's a lot that we can learn from it to use it to our advantage, and we should. We should be using this new technology to our advantage. And the critical thinking is going to be important because as this technology changes, we need to be able to understand it so that we can pivot, because we're going to have to pivot a lot over these next 4 years. So I think it's both.
All right, question over here.
I'm Kayla Norris Barber, and I build affordable housing in Frenchtown and in Griffin Heights. I want to build on the question that Serenity asked. During the 60s and the 70s, there was a great deal of unity within the Black community. Obviously, that's how we got voting rights. That's how we got immigration, which I think is the worst thing that ever happened to us. But it moved us to where we thought we wanted to be. So I I don't feel that kind of unity among Black people that we had during the 60s and the 70s. How do we get that type of unity among us? And how do we get Black people to value each other and value their communities? Because we don't.
The good news about the civil rights era that you're referring to, the 60s and the 70s, is that it worked. And the bad news is that it may have worked too well. In fact, to quote the great late Reverend Dr. King, he said in 1967, as his own life was coming to an end, he wondered if he was integrating his people into a burning house. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that quote. It was also said by another one of our community elders back during this time period, one Zora Neale Hurston, that the fight never really was about integration. It was about resource equalization. That's what it was about. It wasn't about, sitting next to white people for the sake of sitting next to them. It was about, hey, we pay taxes and the taxes are going into this pot, and the way that you're divvying up those resources is not equitable, but just give us our fair share and we'll go over here to Lincoln Academy and educate our people because we know how to do it. We'll go to Madison County Training School and educate our kids because we know how to do it. So the unity that you're mentioning, it came from a place of there was a common element of overt oppression that made that unity necessary and needed. Unfortunately, when some of us moved on up in the vein of George Jefferson, they forgot. And, we want to put a lot at the feet of, the millennial generation or the generation that comes after them, like my children. What do they call them? The Gen Alphas? Gen Zs. Thank you. Gen Zs. But really and truly, if our millennials and our Gen Zs, and now there's the Gen Alpha group that's coming after the Gen Zs, if they're not readily connected, really, whose fault is that? Did we leave too much up to the schools? Big Mama, are you sitting down and talking to them? I mean, whether they want to hear it or not. I tell my kids all the time, I've got a 16, a 14, and a 12-year-old. My husband and I were 52. I said, the good news is y'all got older parents, but that's also the bad news too. Because whether you want to hear it or not, we gonna tell you, right? And we gotta get out of this mind frame of, well, the young people, they different, blah, blah, blah. No. You have to connect to the babies and tell them what they need to know. And don't assume that they're getting it at school, because they're not. We know that they're not, right? We know that they're not. So to answer your question, I think it really starts with community cohesion starts in our own families. Our families need to be more cohesive. Yes. The families are the bedrock of the community. So if you get family cohesion, community cohesion can come out of that.
Agreed. We have another. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to piggyback on what you said, so you get to the next one.
Okay.
I think these are matters of the heart. Black pride. When you said that you had talked to a gentleman behind closed, the first thing that I thought of was that's love. So you have to first teach the children, and there's some people my age and older who really don't love their Black self. And that has been lost. Okay, so these are matters of the heart. We need to tap into Black pride again. Start with individuals and love each other. Love us for our faults. Love ourselves with beyond our faults and things like that. But these are matters of the heart. If you don't teach the elders to love the young ones, I see these young kids because I'm an elder now, and I'm like, man, these kids. And you know what? Listen, y'all laughing at me, but I'm not a spring chicken. And I own it though. My kids, they said, Mom, did you wear those things? Because we were watching Bridgerton with us. She said, did you wear that when you? No, ma'am. But the thing is, I look at the younger ones and I'm very excited about them. I find them to be very confident. They're a little arrogant to me, and I love y'all, but that confidence, I actually love that. I wish I would have had that, and I don't run away from that. I'm learning how to tap into a little bit of that myself. So when we're dealing with the younger folks, we need to tell them about their ancestors and what we experienced and bring them into the fold. That's right. We have to teach them to, to love their Black selves and we have these, recognize these systems, but understand that we're tossing them the baton. And you have to be careful with who you're leaving your legacy to. If you don't like who you're leaving your legacy to, then you need to teach them. So this is a matter of the heart. This is a matter of love. And if you don't have that, this community, we're not going to go far. So we have to tap into ourselves and whatever that looks like, getting that Black pride. But that's going to be the most important thing to get to unity.
Okay.
And I just want to tell you also, like when I was growing up, it was a picture, and I don't know if it was intentional with my parents or that was just the empty space on the wall. But the picture said, "I am because we are because I am." Mm-hmm. And it's the African word is Ubuntu. Right. And so we can't function as individuals and expect the community to move forward. Because if we have this individualistic, I need to do this so I can climb to this position, so I can run for this office, and so I can come up on this amount of money, or if I can do all these things, that's pride. That's who we want to be as an individual. And that's where the growth stops. When we became individuals in Frenchtown, when people in Frenchtown became individuals, the growth stopped. When people in Southside started operating as what can I do to build myself, the growth stopped. But when it was what can we do to build this community, we built the pharmacy. And it's still there, Baker's Pharmacy. What can we do to build this community? We had cleaners. What can we do to build this community? We had law firms. We had, farmers markets. We had all of those things that we needed in order to build and grow our community. But when white folks said you can move out north, when white folks said you can move out the community, then us as individuals started moving out and started thinking about ourselves as individuals. How can I go to their school? Instead of how can I build my school stronger right here in my community? So it has to be this mind state of I am because we are because I am, in order to grow as a community. Because and we're slowly getting back to that. And again, I think tomorrow is the positive part about what's going to happen tomorrow is our opportunity to go back to the we are instead of the I am.
Yes. All right, you said young ones. We have a young one with a question.
My name is Art, and don't you think cars should be banned because of climate change? Because we might have a snow day.
Yes,
get the question.
Should we ban cars?
It would be great if cars were banned. No, and I'm saying this as somebody whose car just put them down 5 months before she's paying it off. Isn't that how it works? We unfortunately in the last century, and I'm gonna bore you just a little bit, because you're gonna be out of school Wednesday, so. The last century in this country, we made policy decisions that built communities around car ownership. And we don't really have, just like in places like France, have you ever heard of France? Germany, Italy, over in Europe, they have public transportation systems. Japan has one of the best public transportation systems in the world. But that's because of policy decisions that their lawmakers, people who voted for these people, they put in office, and they made decisions to build communities that would be more sustainable, but with using public transportation. In this country, we built an interstate system, and that encouraged folks to live 20, 30 miles away from where they worked, meaning they have to have a car. A bus system is not going to get to where I live and bring me to where I need to go when I have to go to my job. So maybe your generation can solve that problem. David, you're shaking your head. What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you know? A what?
A veterinarian.
A veterinarian? Okay, so maybe you can breed a special breed of horses or something that, won't get too terribly big, that people can keep, right, in their houses, and they can, you'll figure it out. Get with some people who'll figure it out. But I would love to see us build a public transportation system that works. So we'll all need cars to go where we need to go.
All right, we have our, thank you for your question. We have our final question of the night.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Marlon Johnson. I currently teach at an all-male prison facility in Carabel, Florida. And my motto for the guys are that liberation is in the mind. My question for the panel is, do you believe that mental slavery still exists in the 21st century? And if so, what can we do to break the chains of mental slavery today?
I do. I think there's no doubt about it. Anybody know my dad? This is his area. Yeah, mental slavery is. I think that was the physical part of it was damaging, but the mental part of it has lingered and will linger for some time. How do we break it? If I had to answer, I think I would agree with anybody would. But I think it does start with the knowledge of self. I think that's where it starts. Like if we know who we are, if we know that our history didn't start with us being slaves, if we know that our history actually comes from dynasties and kingdoms and mathematics and science and religion and all of those things, if we understand who we are and the power we have that's going through our blood, then we can realize that we're not these slaves that they told us who we are. And to kind of diverge a little bit, that's kind of my issue with this idea that Black history is American history, because it's not. Black history goes further than when we touch these shores, and it goes further than when y'all came to pick us up from our shores. Our history goes a lot further back. And so when we start saying things like that, Black history is American history, to me, sometimes mentally, it starts where we became slaves. And then that's where the mental slavery, those trades, that idea kind of lingers on. And so, like the brothers that I represent, and they're 99% brothers, they just don't know who they are. So the idea of success is money. The idea of success is how many women I slept with. The idea of success is everything but what makes me a man, like an actual man, like in my being. And so, and because they don't understand what a man is, like who they are in that sense. So it starts with us, I think, properly educating our children, our youth, and like planting that seed to understand like who we really are, in order to start getting out of this idea of slavery, mental slavery, and getting out of this idea also of dependence on the white structure and the white system as well.
I would just add to that, Dr. Johnson, that I think mental and behavioral health still have like a huge taboo in our community. Like speaking on personal experience, I go to therapy. I've had a psychiatrist, and awesomely enough, like representation matters for our kids and for us too. Like my psychiatrist is a Black woman with locks, and like I feel like when I first met her, it was like such a moment for me because I was like, okay, like you're actually gonna understand. Before her, I had an old white man, and they told me I was paranoid, and they were like talking about it in such a clinical way. But when I met her, she was like, "You're a Black woman, you're an activist, like you should be paranoid." And so I, on a serious note, like I like to share and tell people like that I'm in relationship with about my experience with therapy and mental health, especially men, because for some reason it's still such a negative thing. But even with women, like I ask them, have you looked into therapy? But even I start with saying like mental health on more general, because just going straight to a therapist sometimes isn't helpful. Like a psychologist or a psychiatrist can actually talk to you about more broader what you may be, an actual diagnosis. And then therapy is it's a part of your plan to attack whatever it is, whether it's anxiety, whatever have you. So it's more of a solution to an issue, if you will. But I think that, I talked to a friend about it, and she was like, she jokingly said, "Girl, why, you think I'm crazy?" Like, I mean, I've been in therapy for 2 years, and you asking me for advice all the time. Do you think I'm crazy? So I don't know. It's still such a hard thing in the Black community for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Like I like to think of myself as a mental health advocate, and trying to push people to go and figure that part out. If you're not working on yourself, then whatever issues you have is literally bleeding out onto the people around you, the people you love, your coworkers, whoever, because you're carrying around so much. And I think all Black people, to an extent, probably have, PTSD. Like, we have been through a lot of trauma, even generationally. Like, if something didn't happen directly to you, it happened to your dad. So I just think that's where it starts. And I kind of wanted to answer Mr. Barber's question a little bit. Because a big issue with our community, first of all, we like to rainbow and love and everything about the 60s and 70s, but we don't talk about misogyny. We don't talk about the fact that the Black women who really carried that movement on their backs, like, I only know about them because I went to FAMU. Like, in high school, they didn't tell me what Rosa Parks really did. You know what I'm saying? They made her sound like an elderly woman who, and Claudette Colvin didn't hear her.
Or Elevator, or Joanne Robinson.
None of that.
Patricia Stevens
So
did.
I would say in this day and age, there's literally, I'll join coalitions or organizations, and if I start to see that everybody who's a quote unquote leader and speaking and getting any kind of spotlight or credit for that space, and it's all men, I leave that space. Why? Because I'm not gonna sit here and fight y'all for a seat at this leadership table when I know I have the power to create my own. I feel like that, and then anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, it's just breaking the Black community apart. How can you love yourself and your community if there's people in your community you want to ignore and act like are less valuable than you? I think that a lot of people who romanticize the 60s and 70s want like this male supremacy in our Black movements today, and that's just not this cisgender male supremacy, and that's just not going to be, because people. Our millennials and younger, like, we're not playing. Like, I'm 33, you think I'm radical? The younger people think I'm conservative. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't like what I'm saying, like, she literally want to ban cars.
She wants to ban cars.
Like, that's
the kind of guns while we're at it.
That's the kind of Black unity, like Black unity today. I'm sorry, it's just gonna look radically different. And if all Black people, especially Black men, can't get behind that, then that 60s and 70s feel good vibe, you ain't gonna get it.
For the record, I'm the only man up here, so.
All right, y'all give it up for our panel. All right, here we go. So I'm supposed to wrap up all that we talked about. I think that's near impossible, but I'll say the high points for me were unity, solidarity, accountability, read to the children. You are the asset, the community asset, okay? And so what are you bringing to the community? The call to action is for us to come together. Like, I love conversations. Yes, some conversations with Nicole, but I also love some action. So what's the next step? What are we doing, right? Yes, get the book. Get the book, purchase the book, right? So as we prepare to transition from the panel, yes, purchase the book. Dr. Strouble will be, you gonna do another reading? Okay, he's gonna do another reading. He'll sign the book for you. But also, like, look at your brothers and sisters here, and let's connect. Connect with the panel, because I know they got some great and wonderful things going on that resonate with you. Connect with some of the other folks that are here and see what they're doing. We got what's your Camille Earth Day? Earth Day coming up. Yes. You mentioned Black Men's Mental Health. The Mental Health Council of Big Bend is holding a free Black Men's Mental Health Workshop on February 23rd at FAMU at 2:30 p.m. There'll be food, there'll be counselors, free counseling opportunities from some Black male counselors in the community. And so there are resources here. We just need to utilize them, okay? All right, so what's our hashtag? By any means, by any dreams necessary. That's the hashtag. So also when you get your book, post on Facebook, YouTube, whatever your social media platforms, and hashtag by any dreams necessary. Okay. Again. Oh, he did. Oh, okay.
It's a miracle.
Okay. All right. So TikTok is too. All right. Again, give it up for our panelists. They exit the stage. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take a picture by this lovely backdrop with your book. All right, Dr. Strouble, you want to get a picture? Go ahead, do your thing, do your thing, do your thing. We want to thank Mr. Kayla Norris Barber for having this nice facility for us. Appreciate you. Y'all give it up for Mr. Barber. MLK March. Anybody going out to the MLK March tomorrow in that 15-degree weather?
I'll be there.
9 a.m. Where is it at? CK Still. And then the parade, and then Cascades at 1:30. I'll be there, 1:30 to 6. They also have the Day of Dialogue from 2:30 to 4:30 at the Parkview at Cascades. So lots of MLK activities tomorrow. So come out and be a part. Dr. Strouble.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you very much. Again, this panel that y'all saw put together, I put a lot of thought into it because it's a lot of brilliant minds, but I wanted to get different perspectives from different fields of expertise. So that's why I had to tap Mutaki, of course, Dr. Gaskin, public health champion in this community. Melanie, also another person who's always out fighting for the community as well. And then Dr. Oliver is a brilliant historian who connects all her work back to what's going on in our communities today. So I thought by bringing all of them up there, it will all represent exactly what I was trying to accomplish in this book. So what you'll realize is none of them have had a chance to read the book yet. And that's cool because I'm going to read you a passage which pretty much summarizes almost everything that was said. And also a lot of the stuff the questions you all were asking, a lot of the discussions that we've been having around this community, I try to tackle those in the book. There's an entire chapter in here where I give just detailed planning and different initiatives that we've launched from organizations I work with, whether that's my partnership with the Association of Black Psychologists and our work with Citizens for a Sustainable Future to do the Tallahassee Community Healing Days, our Tallahassee Earth Day initiative, our Brilliant Resilience program, and I'm gonna have some of my team come up and speak to y'all about that before we get out of here. So I'm gonna just read this last part. It's called Prerequisites for Progress. All right. So Black communities must establish a strong foundation on several critical elements to achieve meaningful and lasting progress. No one strategic approach will have a meaningful impact without these prerequisite conditions. These elements are not optional. They are essential pillars determining Black communities' future sustainability and resilience. First and foremost, it is imperative that Black people recognize the immense cultural, economic, and political value they bring to the United States and the world. We must see our Blackness as valuable, integral to humanity's survival. This self-recognition is vital regardless of whether others acknowledge it. It must be internalized as a source of strength, motivation, and purpose. Also, Black solidarity is a non-negotiable requirement for progress. But true unity requires us first to address internal barriers. Inclusivity within the Black community is crucial. We must embrace our diversity, whether it be differences in class, gender, or experiences. Failing to recognize and honor the full spectrum of Black identity weakens the community from within. It leaves us all vulnerable to divide and conquer tactics regularly employed by our oppressors. Thus, class consciousness is a crucial component to building Black solidarity and understanding the shared struggles of Black working class and middle class individuals. Furthermore, gender power parity ensures that Black women have equal leadership, influence, and opportunity. Without embracing these critical factors, achieving adequate levels of solidarity is unlikely. Ultimately, progress requires a comprehensive, intentional purge of internalized racism and rejection of white supremacy. These remnants of oppressive systems manifest as self-doubt, competition, and division within our community. Actual progress requires the outright mass rejection of these ideologies and a consistent effort to heal the wounds inflicted. I say this to say that overcoming external racism is vital, but cleansing our minds and communities of its toxic residue is tantamount. There is also a desperate need for political maturity in Black American communities. Black communities must become deeply engaged in shaping policies that affect their lives. This includes voting and advocating for policies prioritizing Black interests, running for office, and holding elected officials accountable. It is of the utmost importance that our political strategy is not confined to a partisan apparatus. However, this is not a call for a break from the current coalition within the Democratic Party. However, the terms of this alliance should be routinely negotiated to ensure Black interests are prioritized. Organized and informed civic engagement is necessary to build Black political power. Political power is a tool for systemic change, and without it, Black communities will remain vulnerable to the whims of a system not designed to serve them. It is also essential to recognize the value of social trust. Social trust is an invaluable currency enabling communities to effectively address collective challenges. It is the foundation for cooperation, collaboration, and mutual support, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. Without social trust, Black communities will continue to struggle to mobilize for change as mistrust renders them vulnerable to divisive tactics from their opponents to undermine their efforts to tackle shared problems. And finally, there must be a shared commitment to intentional action. This is not a passive journey. Black communities must unify with a clear, deliberate focus on sustaining their future. This means working collectively to build social, economic, and political structures that support long-term growth and stability. Intentionality is of the utmost importance. It's not enough to hope for change. We must plan for it, work toward it, and ensure that each action contributes to the well-being of future generations. So, thank you all. So I really hope that the purpose of this book is to spark dialogue, to get people talking. I want people to disagree with me and challenge me and say, I don't like this strategy, I think we should do this. I want us talking about how we can intentionally secure a future for Black people on this planet. And that is what our dreams should be about. That's what we should be thinking about. That's what we should be envisioning. And then the next step after you have that vision statement is, how do we implement it? And you know, if you have an idea, let's try to implement it. And if it fails, we move on to the next one. But what we can't do is accept the reality that's been handed to us. So I think that Black people deserve to live on this planet, and future generations deserve to live and thrive with dignity, and we should accomplish that by any dreams necessary. So thank you very much, y'all. Okay, the book is $29.99 for the hardcover. There's an e-copy. There's an ebook that is $19.99. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. The official release date is at midnight, so it starts tomorrow, but you can purchase a copy from me right now. I have my Square Reader working now. So yeah, I got books right here, $29.99, y'all. It's a great read. I really hope y'all come and check it out. I'm signing copies. In the meantime, I do want to have two folks come up and just talk about some of the programs we have going in the community. And we have plenty of food in the back, so please make sure you get something to eat. And I'm gonna hand it back to Nicole as she kind of finishes this off.
Where can they follow you?
Oh, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I was on TikTok, but they banned it and brought it back, so I don't know. And, and IG, and you can just come to my website to find everything. It's brucestroublejr.com, and just it's right there on my banner. So please come check out the website. You can order your book from there as well.
All right, thank you so much. Get the book, get the book, get the book. Did y'all have a good time? Yeah. All right. Do we need to do more than?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So we need to get organized. I'm gonna charge you with that, Dr. Strouble.
I'm on it.
Okay. So who's coming up?
Johanna Marie Williams.
Okay. Come on, Johanna. Y'all give her a round of applause as she comes.
Good evening, good evening. I'm going to wait for just a second for you, Huberta, to come up as well. Speaking about mental health, some of the work that Dr. Strouble has been doing as a part of Citizens for a Sustainable Future Incorporated is working with ABSI as well as with the Tallahassee Community Healing Coalition. And we have several initiatives this year to directly address Black mental health. The first is Black Mental Health Book Club. It is an online book club. This year we are reading My Grandmother's Hands by Resva Menachem, and you can join it. Just search Black Mental Health Book Club on Facebook, or search for Tallahassee Community Healing on Facebook. Our event is there. The Zoom registration is there, and you can join us every third Sunday on Zoom to discuss how we can begin to heal our bodies and our minds so that we can better build community with one another. Huberta?
Thank you. And I really want to say thank you to Dr. Bruce Strouble and to the panel for a very outstanding discussion. The Tallahassee Community Healing Coalition is a loosely organized group of people who come together over the past 13 years to address the myth of Black inferiority, which is what a lot of our panel talked about today. And that's the myth that we are not as smart, that we are not as attractive, that we can't trust each other. All these things that I think our panelists talked about today. And so we do that every year. For the past 13 years, we've done it. The third weekend of October, and we have a 3-day event that we implement. And that includes a discussion about the myth of Black inferiority in some way on the Friday. And then on Saturday, we have a lot of different health and wellness kinds of activities and artistic activities and cultural activities that help us to tap into the creativity and the various gifts and things that we have and the things that can help us to be healthy. And then on Sunday, we hold healing circles for men, healing circles for women, and for our youth. Also this year, we're going to bring back the emotional emancipation circles. And many of you may not know, but the Community Healing Network and the Association of Black Psychologists work together to develop a support group, I guess you could call it, that focuses on helping us to move from the myth of Black inferiority to embracing the truth about who we are. And so we will be launching that group hopefully sometime in February, but we'll be sending out information about that. So anyone who's interested in participating in that can join us. So again, thank you very much.
Finally, we want to highlight Camille Lewis and talk a little bit about Earth Day.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Camille Lewis. I'm one of the organizers for the Tallahassee Earth Day Festival. The Tallahassee Earth Day Festival is a completely free event that we host in Tallahassee that draws a crowd of about 1,000 youth and families over to the south side at the Hole, which is ran by an individual named Baba Kupu, who is a powerhouse of Invite himself in Tallahassee. The location of the Hole is 3030 South Adams Street. We would love for everybody to come out. We are in the planning stages of the festival. This is going on our 4th year at Tallahassee Earth Day.
So if you are interested in sponsoring and being a Tallahassee Earth Day sponsor, so we can keep this event completely free, let myself or Dr. Bruce know. If you're interested in hosting an activity because you have an organization that works with youth or sustainability or agriculture, environmentalism, STEM, science, or anything related, let us know. We'd love to have you out. And if all else fails, we would love to just have you come out and enjoy the festival. It's a great, great time. So yeah, come on out. And Brilliance Resilience is another initiative that Citizens for a Sustainable Future has been a part of for the past few years, which is a summer camp. Again, it's completely free. We give our students breakfast, lunch, snack, and take them out on field trips in Tallahassee, outside of Tallahassee. I see a lot of our parents in the audience. So if you have a child who's in Brilliance Resilience, thank you for trusting us with your baby. And then we also more recently have started a Saturday school program where we do the same thing. We educate students on environmentalism, environmental justice, sustainability, and really just expose Black youth to the joys of being Black. There's an individual named Chris Omni, Dr. Chris Omni, who coined the term Black and green spaces. And that is what we try to give our Black children, is we give them opportunity to be in green spaces. I would love to talk more with you about the school out in Madison. So if you are interested in getting involved, or if you have children between the ages of 3rd grade and 8th grade, and you would like them to be part of Brilliance Resilience, please come see us. We would love to have your children with us.
Thank you, Camille. All right, final announcement. Mount Olive Affordable Housing and Community Development Corporation is having a moving from cost burden rental to affordable home ownership workshop on Monday, January 27th at 6 p.m. right here in this building. It is free, food will be provided, and there will be a panel discussion, and there'll be conversation around banking, financing and mortgage products, affordable housing professionals, credit and improving scores. Anybody in need of affordable housing? Yeah, okay, I thought so. Can anybody tell me what the threshold is for like affordable housing? Like how much of your gross monthly income should go towards your housing payment? 30%, right. So if you are making $4,000 a month, $1,200 should be what your rent or mortgage payment is. Okay, did y'all know that? Yeah. A lot of people are house cost burden. So that's what this workshop will be all about. And I will be emceeing that right here on January 27th, 6 p.m. And again, it's absolutely free. You can go to the Mount Olive Affordable Housing CDC.com website for more information. All right, so buy a book. There are some refreshments left. We're gonna mix and mingle for a little while more. DJ, you got some music for us? Thank y'all for allowing me to be your mistress of ceremony. Mama Huberta will be on my show next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. talking about the emotional healing circles that she talked about tonight. So Conversations with Nicole, 8:30 p.m. next Wednesday. She will be live talking about that organization and the work that they're doing. I like the line format. Yes, get in line and get these books. Love it. Thank y'all. Have a good night.
I'm good.